Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Season Ticket Holders. I'm your host, Dane Lillingston, and we have a very special UFC 315 wrap back with my boy Tom, who's adamant he's not going to fight yet is sparring this weekend. Tom, how are you, mate?
Good, good. How's the stitch ups? I love it, Dane.
Uh,
Mate, nothing can bring me off the high from yesterday. I'm still buzzing. It was such a good Sunday afternoon.
Beautiful. I mean, I caught the main fight, caught the hype, Thunderstruck, awesome song to come out to by Jack Della Maddalena. But for the first time ever, Australia has two UFC champions at the very same time. Jack becomes the third ever UFC champion from Australia. The first, of course, I am referencing history here with Robbie Whittaker. Rob Whittaker was our very first champion at middleweight. Then, of course, we had Alexander Volkanovski, who is now a two-time featherweight champion, and now our first welterweight champion, and Jack Della got the job done. Unanimous decision. Let's just jump straight into the fight because as the Aussie fight fan, this is heaven. In the space of 1 month and two pay-per-views, we now have two Australian champions. Watching the fight, I thought it was 2-2 heading into the fifth. I thought Jack obviously did enough. He almost threatened to finish in that fifth. Awesome to watch, even though my TKO bet didn't come off. What did you make of the fight, mate?
It was amazing. Like you just said, to be an Aussie UFC fan right now, this is just as good as it gets. Two champions in back-to-back pay-per-view cards. We are on fire for a little country with only 25 million people. We are punching well above our weight in this sport, and I'm so proud. And good on you, Jack. And it was an amazing fight. I agree with you. I thought it was like 2-2 leading into that fifth. It was an absolute war. And in that fifth round, Jack just it was amazing to watch. It was the crispest boxing. He landed some heavy, heavy shots throughout that fight and amazing takedown defense. And it was just amazing to watch. And I remember his corner saying, leading into that fifth round, you are 5 minutes away from being the world champion. And he went out there and he really stamped it. And I thought he was going to finish Belal towards the end of that fifth round. And mate, it was just what a war. And what about Bilal's head? Like the damage, it
Mate,
was insane.
he has a massive cut underneath the eye, right? But the brutal one is that one on his lip. He has that bottom, that massive split. I think Dana posted the photo online. That is disgusting.
Dana White shared this photo of him, and I think it said broken orbital bone, which I think is your cheekbone,
Hmm.
broken nose, and the gash, like the split in his lip. It honestly looked like an inch long. Like it's crazy. They're absolute warriors, and man, I was on the edge of my seat. I was screaming. I was in a whole nother realm. I was just so invested in this fight, and for Jack to win, it was the best afternoon. I had a couple of beers. I was with my mates. We were screaming. It doesn't get any better.
UFC Sunday, baby. You gotta love it.
Yes, it was awesome.
And that was the thing. I was there with my mate Zach, who's also a big fight fan, and you know the pre-fight predictions, and we talked about it here. It felt like that if Bilal was going to win, he was going to break him down, grind him out through 5 rounds, dominate the fight, get him against the cage, go through the takedown, win the wrestling game. It wasn't like that at all because Jack just seemed to have his number. Bilal didn't get a takedown, I think, until the fourth round. He, over and over again, he's officially credited here on the ESPN stats. I'm looking at it, taking 3 from 9 in his attempts. Jack even went for a few attempts, but the most impressive thing about this fight for Maddalena was just his grappling defense, man. I didn't know he had it in him, especially coming off that Gilbert Burns fight where he was taken down and he was on the ground and controlled for a little bit. He just seemed to have an answer for everything. The way he just beautifully rolled out of positions, even when he did eventually get on his back, but even the way he just through those first sort of 3 rounds. It never even looked like Bilal was going to get a takedown. Were you surprised at just how impressive his like wrestling, grappling defense was?
So surprised, but so happy. As soon as I saw him he'd just stand back up. He just had an answer and then he'd stand up and just land bombs. And it was just like, that would demoralize Bilal because that is his game plan. That is, you know, I was surprised Bilal stood with him as long as he did without shooting in for a takedown. Like he actually stood on the feet and they boxed for the first 2 rounds, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, why is he doing this? Like,
It was
and
shocking.
he was landing shots as well himself, and he was doing really well, and it was a very competitive fight. But then when he did shoot him for those takedowns, and Jack had an answer and stood straight back up, that's when I was like, oh, we are on here. He is on top of his game, and this is awesome to watch.
You'd have to think he did break his spirit a bit because Bilal
It
did
would rattle
say
you. Yes, for sure.
100%. And he said coming into the fight, he didn't lie. He said, I do want to stand with him. Not many of us believed him, but he was actually being serious because he had some success, but he was never going to be able to do it over 5 rounds. And Jack was getting the better of him, lighting him up in those early rounds. And there wasn't any sort of like big rocked moments, but he was landing over and over again. That head movement was absolutely beautiful. Like he was just ducking, always knew where to be, and coming back with him. And then, like I said, yeah, I think 4-2-2 heading into the fifth. I know I heard some people say 3-1 Jack. I don't know if that was the official one in the end. One judge did have it 49, I believe. But heading into that fifth, and then I really thought he was going to get the job done. Like it looked like he was going to finish him, which would have been nice for my sports bet account. Again, didn't happen. But I mean, no one saw this coming, right? Like we just didn't see this come, or not the way it happened. I don't think anyone thought Jack by decision to be able to grind him down and defend Bilal like that. Was that the most surprising part?
Yes, I thought it'd be a Bilal decision win, just laying on him, grinding him, just doing what he always does. And Jack just had an answer for all of that. And his crisp boxing was on display. His head movement, his hands, he was going to the body, going to the head. They were big shots landing on Bilal. And to Bilal's credit, he's got a chin. Like he was eating those shots. And it was, man, it was just a clinic. And it was even, it was an absolute war. And in that fifth round, Jack's corner said, "You are 5 minutes away from being the world champion." And he went out and he could have probably, just rode it out, knowing that, like, oh, yeah, I probably won this. So he just went for it in that fifth round. He was not scared and he was pushing forward in that last 10 seconds. They had nothing left. They were absolutely gassed, both fighters. And Jack's just walking at him, just throwing bombs. And it just makes you proud to be an Aussie. And it's just that Aussie fighter spirit. And you're just like, good on you, man. Like, I was just screaming at the TV. Like it's as good as it gets as an Aussie UFC fan.
I think the trainer's quote was just ping him, you see you next Tuesday.
Yes. How Aussie is that? That is all time.
I think that was the final line he said to him, heading into the fifth round. And like you
Just
said, he
keep
did.
pinging him. Oh man.
And he did. He kept pinging him, man, because that Aussie battle of the spirit, like you mentioned, like we talked about in the preview as well, like he just went there to the end. He could have shorted up in that fifth and stood back, but he went for the finish and he almost got it, man. And I love it when fighters don't just hang their hats on a decision, the judges' scorecards, especially like somewhere like Canada. You never know what's going to happen with these judges. There was a horrendous undercard judges scorecard where I had one judge gave 3 rounds to one fighter and another judge gave it to another fighter. If you saw that, but it was on the prelims. I've never
You
seen that
never
before in my
know.
life.
It's so random. Yes.
Um, Especially with those athletic commissions that just don't know. But anyway, that wasn't going to happen in this fight. So for him to do that, I see him credited with 200 total strikes, 178 significant strikes, 113 to the head, 47 to the body, 18 legs. The only time in this stats where Bilal had him was he had 119 headshots to 113, and a bit of control time. But yeah, I was just completely impressed. Where that comes to now is what happens now because we obviously saw Islam Makhachev make a tweet almost instantly after the fight. I'm going to bring it up here. He said, "Time to become a double champion. Let's go." And then he
Mm.
quoted JDM, who said, "It's a beautiful challenge. I'm going to get it back for Volk." Then Islam responded again and said, "You are not Volk. I will show you a different level. Keep my belt clean." Now, that
Mm.
obviously has a lot of ramifications for the rest of the UFC. Ilia Topuria had obviously moved up to lightweight. People were hoping that Islam Topuria was a fight we might now get. Now it looks like it could be Jack Islam, which is a fight that I'm also very happy to see. What do you want to see now, man? Because this looks like it's sort of a massive spanner in the works that affects sort of three different divisions.
A massive spanner. And to be honest, I was a bit confused about it all. And I really wanted to see Islam versus Ilia Topuria. I thought that is the fight to make. That's international fight we've written all over it. That's probably one of the biggest fights of the year besides John Jones and an Aspinall that you could make for the UFC. And now this has thrown a spanner in the works, and it looks like that could potentially be off the table. You've got Ilya looking at fighting Oliveira and
That's what I heard too. Yeah.
Islam potentially fighting Jack. So, to be honest, I'm nervous for Jack against Islam because he's just a freak and on a whole nother level. But from what we saw on the weekend, Jack might have the answers. And Craig Jones is his jiu-jitsu coach, and I don't know. He's taken a bit of the credit. He's like, if you're on the ground and these Dagestani wrestlers are got you, just stand up.
And
And that's kind of what Jack did on the weekend. So maybe that's the answer. Maybe Craig Jones has broken the code and he's taught our boys, how, and it's just stand up. And maybe that's what Jack will do against Islam, and maybe he'll get him on the feet with the boxing. And man, what a fight that would be, and to beat him and to get it back for Volk, it'd be pretty all time.
was going to say he did seem to Craig Jones, I would have to say, did have a big influence on this fight. Obviously, one of the greatest BJJ practitioners in the world. But the way Jack, it seemed like he had a method to try and just roll through to
Mm.
stand up. I think at one time it didn't work out. He tried to roll through, and that's when Bilal got on top. But Jack always got back up, and it was an interesting strategy. I'm not sure if I've seen it too many times in the UFC, but they were sort of just rolling through it, and it seemed to work. Like you said, if it's simple as just get back up, but that seems to be
Just
part of the
kind of
game
used
plan.
his momentum and just kept rolling with his own weight, and then they'd pick a gap and just poof back to
Maybe
the
it
feet, and it was
explode
just
up.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like it just sounds so simple, and when you're watching, you go, oh, that's easy, but that is such a skill, man. That is so hard, and especially when you've got someone of that caliber, and that's their game is to control you and lay on you on the ground, and you're getting back up to your feet and then landing those shots like that is world champion caliber right there, and that's what we witnessed yesterday.
No, 100%, man. And just, yeah, I mean, I can't believe we've got two Australian UFC champions. I remember when a few
It's
months
so
ago,
good.
dude, can you imagine a few months ago when both of these title fights got announced? We would have been lucky to say that hopefully one of them wins. And the fact that both of him and Volk have pulled it off, incredible.
Yeah, as an Aussie UFC fan, doesn't get any better. And like I said, like man, this sport's only been around and been massive for 20, 30 years. Our population is 25 mil, say. You've got other champs from other countries like Brazil, millions and millions of people, Russia, millions and millions of people, America, millions and millions of people. We are such a small pond. And to have two world champions, like, it makes you proud to be Australian. It makes you proud. And it's just like we're doing pretty good in this sport.
No, 100%. There's something about that Aussie fighting spirit too that seems to always shine through because you can see it in all three of our champions, from Whitaker, Volk, to Della Maddalena now. Like they do have that tough, never say die fighting attitude that maybe it's something to do with where we grow up. I don't know. Is it an Aussie thing down under? We've always loved the Aussie battler, the underdog, and all those things are what happens, and these fighters keep get up again.
Maybe it's just all come from Steve Owen wrestling crocodiles.
Crikey,
Just,
mate.
just set the barrier, set it high, and everyone's trying to, live up to it.
Mate, I
No,
absolutely
good on him, man. It's so sick. It's so good.
awesome to see. And yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see now because it's going to be an interesting time to be a UFC matchmaker and what Dana White and what those guys are going to decide to do. Obviously, like you said, yeah, Islam Taporia, I would have been happy to watch that fight. But look, like you said before too, if it was Jack versus Islam, I mean, we thought that's what Bilal was going to do to Jack. So if
Mm.
Jack's wrestling really is coming along, he's obviously evolving as a fighter. He's improved
He's
immensely. Had a
only
full
28. He's 28. Like,
28.
you are coming into your prime. Like, he's still got years in the game, which is so exciting. Like, he's literally at the beginning and he's the champ.
Dude, 100%. So 28, he had a 14-month layoff. You could obviously see that progression from the Gilbert Burns fight to this fight, how much his grappling and his ground game has evolved. His striking is world class. That was always championship level. If he really does have now the grappling and ground game to back it up, who knows what his ceiling is now because he's got the belt. He looks a champion. He is the champion, and I can't wait to see what happens next. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the UFC does with this fight. But two Aussie championship fights. We've got two Aussie title defenses now to look forward to. So I can't wait.
I can't wait. It's amazing. It's so good. And like, man, you look at Jack's head and you're just like, you are a fighter. Like,
Look at his nose.
look, like he's given his life to this craft. He's given his face to this craft, like to this sport. And I'm like, now he's reaping the benefits. And like, yeah, good on him, man. What a weapon.
Awesome to see, man. I can't
Mm.
wait to see, and I can't wait to see what happens next. I did just want to touch on the co-main as well because Valentina Shevchenko did defend her women's flyweight belt. Now she actually went in as the underdog, like we spoke about against Manon Freeworld, but she got it done. It wasn't the most exciting fight. Valentina was pretty confident. She got it three judges, 48 to 47 in the end. And I know I was a little bit paranoid about me asking about her age, but she came out clearly in her post-fight interview with DC and said that age is all in your head. It's just a number. So obviously it's something that's been going on in her own life and
Mm.
what she's thought about. She's 37, has now defended her belt, her second reign, defended her belt for the first time. So impressive by her. And Aldo, we can't go without Jose Aldo. He announced he's retiring. So obviously, legend of the sport. We talked about that battle with Volk and who's going to go down as the GOAT featherweight. And it will be interesting to see. He did say he had some injuries heading into that fight, going down, but obviously an absolute legend of the sport. So it'd be sad to see him go.
It would have been nice to see him leave on a win, I feel, to retire on a win. But good on him, and he did a lot for the sport, and was such a dominant champion for a long time, and nothing but respect. Good on him.
And hopefully, just him getting knocked out by Connor isn't the number one image that people will always have in their minds of Aldo, because for a lot of people, that probably is what they remember him
Yeah,
for.
that's true.
One thing I did want to touch on too, I forgot to mention, but yeah, so most title fight wins in UFC history, Valentina has now become number six on that list. So pretty
Wow,
impressive, man. John Jones is at the top with 16, George St. Pierre is 13, Demetrius Johnson 12, my boy Anderson Silva's at 11, tied with Amanda Nunes, and then Valentina has now had 10 title fight wins. So pretty illustrious company that she's in now.
that's a pretty tidy crew to be a part of. Some big
Mate,
names.
impressive, isn't it, man? Like
Yeah,
that. I mean, but also for all the hate that John Jones gets and will always continue to get, that's 16 title fight wins, three more
yeah,
than GSP, and
doesn't lie.
and four more than Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, who's in some GOAT debates. I know Joe Rogan's talked about him being his GOAT, and Anderson Silva, who's my GOAT only because he's been my favorite fighter of all time. But yeah, to have 16 to be clearly at the top like that. Now we just have to wait and see what happens with old John. But look, not the greatest card in the world, mate, but still awesome for them to get back to Canada, Aussie champion overall. What's your thoughts, your feelings, your fears?
Yeah, I was on such a high after that fight yesterday afternoon, and I just feel like the card, it was fine, but that was actually a proper 5 round war that was such a good outcome for Aussie fans that I feel like it made the card, and it made it a great afternoon, and yeah, still buzzing. And I feel, imagine if it's Islam and Jack Della in Perth.
Hey, now you're thinking. I didn't even think of that, man, because surely now we have
Because there's the
two.
history with Volk and Islam in Perth, and some people, we all maybe a little bit biased, but we think that he pretty much won that fight. He
We
finished
do.
on top. He was dominating. I'm like, maybe this is the round two that Perth needs, Australia needs, and Jack can get it done in his hometown and get vengeance for Volk.
I love the way you think, my man. That's why I got you
Maybe
on
we've got to
here.
go to Perth, Dane.
Let's do it. We have no sponsors. We're gonna have to take out loans, and our missus will hate us, but let's bloody do it.
We'll get it
Um,
done. And the post show, let's do it straight after when we've had a few tins. It'll be good,
from
good, good content.
the closest thing, what would be RAC Arena out there? We'll have to find a bar. Let's do it. But you do raise a good point though, man, because now we've got two champions. The Australian cards they've been dishing up in Sydney have been pretty poor. They've given us Sean
Mm.
Strickland and two back-to-back main events in Sydney, which I don't think is good enough. Now we've got two Australian champions. Surely one of them is fighting down under soon.
Well, imagine if you could do a Volk in Sydney and a Jack Della in Perth.
Well, it
Then you're
makes
ticking all
sense.
boxes.
It makes sense, right? Put it in
You're
both of
making
their
everybody happy.
Put them both in their home cities. I mean, we would love to see Volk do it here in Sydney. I've spoken to Volk in my previous interviews about him. He has fought here before, but about one more, especially in this last stage of his career, about having one more fight. Wollongong's down the road. This is his hometown in Sydney. One more fight here, and then obviously Jack from Perth. He obviously doesn't have as many runs on the board to have that sway, but surely it makes sense from a UFC pay-per-view point of view. If they really want to make money, give us the fights that we actually want to see.
And the crowd was so rowdy that time in Perth. Like that was
Awesome crowd.
next level. So imagine when it's Jack for the title. Like they're gonna blow the roof off that place. And I feel like you and me need to be a part of it. We're going.
Let's do it, man. Lock it in. If it's happening, we'll lock it in.
Yeah, as soon as it gets announced, booking flights and accommodation. Let's go.
All right, heard it here first, and we can't back out now. All
Can't
right,
wait.
all right, mate.
We'll
Well,
put it out
thank.
into the universe and hopefully it happens.
We have to clip this up now, just to prove it to ourselves. Tom, always a pleasure, mate. Love having you on. We'll have to watch one of those UFC cards, of course, together very soon. Legend, two obviously UFC champions. Let's go, baby.
Thank you, Dan. Stoked, man. It's been such an awesome weekend, and thanks again for having me on.
No worries at all, mate. And sorry about your Manly Sea Eagles. All right.
Yeah. That's a good way to finish.
I can't talk. My Broncos pretty poor against South Sydney. Anyway, perfect time to wrap it up. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to season ticket holders. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.